And welcome to the UGO podcast, podcast edition, or
What?
podcast within a podcast.
What?
So wait, it's a podcast edition of a podcast?
It
dream's
is, yes.
collapsing.
I like to call it podception, but I think we'll, I don't know, I'll figure out a title later. It's my usual thing. But yes, welcome to the UGO podcast, or unapologeticgeekout.com, and it is a great time to hear you guys listening to us on this pod within a pod episode. I don't know. I got everything mixed up today.
Would it be pod against pod in this one?
No, it's not pod versus pod. This is in this,
The title should be Two Peas in a Pod, or something like that, you know?
Two
two pods in a
pea?
pod.
Two pods in a pea.
Okay, yeah.
I don't
Three
know.
idiots in a
Something.
room.
Okay, marketers, we
Three
are
men
not.
and a baby.
Advertisers, we are not, because obviously this is not going great.
They also get paid more than we do, so.
So, I am very excited today. We're going to be talking about some of the actual podcasts that we listen to. I know some of you guys might be curious as to what do we listen to, as you know, we run our own podcast. What kind of podcasts interest us? So that's just going to be me and Justin basically talking about that today, because Travis doesn't really listen to podcasts
Nope.
as much.
As in at all.
So he can just go.
And I listen to a select few, but I have a lot to say about them. So
And I listen to a lot, so I'll have to limit mine down to just the couple of my faves. So a very interesting, plethora. So I'm sure Travis will just have to sit around and go like, well, that sounds neat.
Except when Justin talks, I'll just be like, not for me.
Definitely not.
I only listen to the most exquisite and arty podcasts, obviously.
Not for me.
Well, that's okay. You can be a dirty heathen if you want to.
I will.
But speaking of exquisite and arty, we want to talk to you about where you can find us and our exquisite arty content. And that is, of course, all at unapologeticgeekout.com. If you want to, you can contact us via any of our social media pages, like our Facebook page at Unapologetic Geekout, and of course our Twitter at UGO Podcasts. Keep an eye out on our Instagram, because we got some conventions episodes coming up in the spring, and that's always where our flurry of Instagram activity usually happens. And of course, if you want to help out the podcast at all, you can always find us on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We love those 5-star reviews, especially the really, really weird ones that make no sense at all. Those are our favorites. We read them here on the air, word for word, but only if they're 5-star reviews. You got to remember that. That's the stickler. I will read anything as long as it's a 5-star review. But yeah, with that, who's talking about podcasts today? Why, it's me, Nick the Merc with a mic, and my fellow unapologists.
Wait, so now we're doing this?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I'm I don't mind switching up the order of stuff. You got to keep it fresh, right?
Well, now I'm scared. It.
Who's scared? Who's scared during this podcast?
Travis is very scared.
The god of the pod himself, fear of his own. I love that the god of the pod doesn't even listen to podcasts. That's pretty good. I like that tagline.
Just that awesome.
But of course, in our news unapologist.
Oh, yes, me, Justin. Hey. I forgot where I was for a second. No, I'm kidding.
I thought we were talking about the other news unapologist.
Yeah. The other guy who looks just like me and sounds like me, but is not me. So.
I like him better.
So how?
Yes, you can go find him on Unapologetic Philistine. He's the complete opposite of me.
So how's it going today, guys?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I was wondering how is the weather up there in New York, Justin? I know you recently just got back,
dark.
right?
Yes, it's cold and dark and miserable. It's, thankfully it has not been snowing, but there's tons of snow on the ground. It's freezing cold temperatures and just, yeah. And then my semester just started for my last semester in school. So I've been dealing with that. That's been fun. I'm taking voice acting classes, actually. Funny enough, it's a series of classes for voiceovers and podcasting. So I have a little experience with that, just saying.
Cool. I didn't realize
then,
they gave classes on podcasting, so that's nice.
I didn't know that either. I scrolled through my options. I'm just like, wait, what?
That's a thing.
But then I'm also doing screenwriting, so doing film critiquing on screenwriting courses. And then I'm doing some exercise classes, so swimming and strength and fitness. So lose a little bit of this gut I got here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's all sounds really neat. We have not been that busy, or at least I haven't been. I've been very, leading my sedentary lifestyle. I've been watching a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, we got through, I have not watched all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so there's that.
Yeah, and we're all caught up in the new season, which I guess has been coming out, and I just haven't realized it. So that's why when we got to the end, I was like, I have not seen these episodes, because I don't remember Rosa being bisexual. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing.
It certainly is.
Or Danny Trejo being her dad.
That was weird.
I'm like, okay, I would definitely remember
Really?
that. But also I watched Coraline over the weekend.
It's a good movie. Terrifying,
which
but good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this has got to be the scariest PG movie I've seen since Garbage Pail Kids.
Mm-hmm.
It is frightening on a level of just like nightmare inducing. Like there's one scene in that fucking movie where the girl, it takes place between two universes, one being the dream fairy type land that can turn super scary on a dime. But then it's also the real world. And in the real world, she visits the basement of the house she's living in to see these two,
crazy old ladies.
Crazy, fortune tellers that used to be actors or something. And they have, a couple of dogs, but they seem to, every time one of their dogs dies, they,
can't part with them.
They can't part with them and taxidermy them into little angels and sit them on the shelf. So there's 20 dead dogs sitting on the shelf in these angel outfits. And I'm just like, that is a lot to, you only see it for a couple seconds and then they go back to the regular story. But I'm like, that's a lot to process for a minute there. It's acknowledging, if you're a kid watching that, you have to acknowledge that, their dog, your dog is eventually going to die and suddenly it might get, have
stuffed,
its body displayed in this horrible fucking fashion. And I'm like, that's the regular universe. That's not the scary universe. The scary universe has the dogs turned into fucking demon bat creatures.
Which isn't actually that much worse, really.
It's super scary. I was just watching and I'm like, what child would watch this and not, be super scared? I mean, I remember I was scared of Nightmare Before Christmas, which is the closest thing I could compare it to. But yeah, that was another pretty good movie from Leica, which is, the guys that made Kubo, The Two Strings, Paranorman, those guys. So I was not really shocked that I liked it. I do like a lot of their other output.
I would say Coraline's probably their second best movie, but that's also saying I only like 2 Leica movies. I think they're the best claymation animators in the business for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they're inconsistent with story writing because their best one is probably the most simple-minded one, which was Kubo and the Two Strings.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where it worked to their advantage, is that simplicity of storytelling, and that's what Coraline does pretty well too. It's not trying to be, making a point or being funny and cutesy or anything like that. It's just telling a simple kids, dark fairy tale.
Sure. Let's see what else I watched. Oh yeah, I should mention. I got a late Christmas present from the man Zarian himself. Just got me a couple things here. I got a Fandango gift card, a Volt Boy bobblehead, which is pretty cool. I got the Endurance one, which was nice.
Yeah, there were a few options, and the other ones I didn't think you'd be interested in. So I'm like, oh, this is the least goofy looking in comparison.
They're all kind of goofy looking.
Are they all the same between all the games, or is this Fallout 3 or 4 specific?
I think they're the same, but I don't actually recall.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'm assuming they're the same.
I never played 4, so all I can go off of is 3. I also got Dunkirk, for the Christopher Nolan movie about all the troops, the British and French troops trapped on the Dunkirk beaches.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an interesting film.
Still not seen it. It looked interesting, though.
Oh, sure. Nolan is a great talent when it comes to cinematography and basically visual storytelling. I really liked Tom Hardy's little he's doing an airplane fighter test thing.
Okay.
You could take his part out completely and have it be its own short film, and I think it would actually be pretty good. The only thing I gotta say is that the thing, the only real thing it does that bothers me is that it splits up the time on which they tell stuff. It tells stuff not in chronological order.
Oh.
And it really does not tell you when stuff is happening. You got to be really paying attention and got to be paying really close attention as to when events are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it does that is not apparent until almost the absolute end of like 2 hours. So
Yeah.
So beforehand, I'm like, oh man, this is actually getting really annoying, and I don't know why it's doing it. And then it becomes apparent later why it's doing it is because it's hinges on this action sequence that you don't know what the fate of certain characters are.
Oh.
So you can't know what happens to them from a chronological perspective. So it has to show some of like the fighter jet sequence out of order from this boat rescue type thing.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, so that's why it's doing it. But I just don't know if that reveal is worth the like hour and a half of me being really pissed of having to, every time it transitions a scene, trying to figure out when the fuck it takes place. But other than that, I think Cillian Murphy gives a really good performance in here as a really freaked out soldier. There's also, I think Tom Hardy does a lot with little. You basically never see that guy's face until the very end. I mean, he's got
he cannot escape. He can't escape Mask in Christopher Nolan movies.
No, he's got it's either in Mad Max Fury Road. He's got the steel mask to prevent him from biting people. He's got the Bane mask. Mm-hmm. He's just he just likes hiding up that pretty face of his.
Maybe he's just a biter.
Let's see what else. I watched Spectre over the weekend because Hulu has a bunch of the James Bond, like almost all the James Bond movies right now. Like, and one of the few ones I haven't watched is like the latest one, Spectre. Man, Spectre wasn't very good, guys. No.
That's what I hear. I've seen chunks of it because it's on YouTube, a bunch of scenes and stuff, and even those, like the action sequences, I wasn't terribly impressed with what I saw.
Man, what a waste of what's his name, Jew Hunter as
Christoph
Waltz as Blofeld. What a waste! Just it turns out like his main motivation, spoiler, is that Daddy didn't love me enough, and I was like, lame. What a lame fucking villain plan. And of course they try and pull the whole the last three movies. Well, I was the grand master of all your pain. I'm the one that puts you through all that. And now I have grand, like his grand schemes that he puts together are so fucking elaborate, and it has to make you think like, well, what if one of the other villains killed Bond?
If it actually worked.
Well, if you think about it, it works for Casino Royale because of that ending where he gets rescued at the last minute with his wife, and it gets revealed that like, oh yeah, she was gonna give some of this information to Spectre, and that was the deal, is when the save. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. None of the other movies make sense because Bond could have died thousands of times over of just on many a mission, and we don't even know how much time passes between these missions. Yeah.
And not only that, but like Skyfall did its best to just cut ties with the first two movies completely. It's almost, you don't have to have seen the first two movies to watch Skyfall.
No, and then like they pretend Quantum of Solace didn't even exist.
Yeah, for Spectre to suddenly go, oh, by the way, I hope you watch Quantum of Solace because that's going to play a huge part in this plot.
Oh my god, yes, it does. Like they use a whole villain from fucking Quantum of Solace that I'm like, I don't remember that movie, guys. I mean, I try and remember it, but it is so fucking boring that I can't. Every time I watch it, I get to the halfway point, and then I don't remember what happens after that.
I'll be honest, I came into this movie when you were watching it. It's probably the most I've actually seen of a James Bond movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just don't watch them.
Yeah, they're not for everybody. I remember I used to catch them on like TBS and TNT, wherever they were. Whoever had the rights to them at that given time. They always show marathons and stuff.
Yeah.
They're not all created equal, that's for sure.
Well, and it's weird because it's the same director as Skyfall. I guess they just weren't inspired this time. Like for some reason, somewhere between the first and the second film, they're just like, yep, we just got to get this made. Doesn't matter what it's about. Doesn't matter if it's good. Just get another Bond movie out there.
The tone is weird too. Like it's trying to act like it's kind of one of the older, one of the sillier type movies where it's got Dave Bautista as a henchman with fucking diamond fingernails.
Yeah, Mr. Hinks, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
It's just...
He's got like 2 lines of dialogue and that's about it.
I mean, Dave Bautista worked good in small doses, to be fair, depending on the role. But yeah, it just seems like he's just any number of henchmen from the Bond series. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like I've seen a lot of it. I just know because I study my movies a lot. But the fact that, yes, they can't decide on which group of fans they want to please, because there's some people who really like the gritty stuff from Skyfall and Casino Royale. But then there's Martin Thomas from Double Toasted, and all those other people who are like, yeah, but I like my gadgets, and I like my goofy Bond.
Yeah.
And those ones tend not to work very well with this current Bond mentality. And they bring back that thing of the James Bond wants to retire because he's fallen in love and finds the person that he wants to spend his life with thing. Which, did you care about that girl at all? In that movie?
Who gives a shit about this girl?
For what I've seen, she was really bland.
She's completely bland. I don't know who the actress who played her is, but at least in Casino Royale, it's played by Eva Green, if I'm remembering it right?
That'd be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she and Bond have at least a chemistry together where you're like, oh, okay, I get why that they're hooking up, because they seem to really have a chemistry going on. I get it. This girl, who's the daughter of a fucking Quantum of Solace villain that I don't fucking care about, is suddenly all of a sudden they hook up on this train, like after Dave Bautista bites it. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I'm like, okay, yeah, they're having sex, and then later it's like, I love you, and I'm willing to like give up the life of spying work for you. And I'm like, I did not read that at all.
Yeah, no, her name's Léa Seydoux. Like, she's a rising French actress who's been in a bunch of stuff like Grand Budapest Hotel, and then her big breakout was Blue is the Warmest Color, that lesbian drama that came out a few years back.
Oh, that's right. Well, I actually preferred Monica Buccelli, I think is how you pronounce her last name.
Is it Bellucci?
Belushi? That makes her sound like one of the long-lost Belushi sister.
Belushi. No. I think it is Bellucci. But,
Belushi.
Yeah, her romance stuff with Daniel Craig in this is a little forceful, let's just say, it seems like.
Yeah, it's weird, and it does remind me of the earlier Bond movies where it's like, I remember watching Dr. No recently where he just straight up has sex with one of the female agents when she's trying to make sure that he spends enough time in the apartment so that some people can come and kill her. Oh. And he sets her up to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna actually have sex with you and then lead you outside so we can arrest you. And it's like, wait a minute, you didn't really have to have sex with her. You could have just arrested her. Like, yeah, but she tried to kill me, so it's kind of like a revenge sex sort of thing. Yeah, the older Bond movies are very sexist.
Shocking.
I think he's a nymphomaniac.
Well, the thing you gotta realize about it is that in the 70s, sexual revolution meant a completely different thing. Like, a lot of the women in James Bond movies were very open with their sexuality, which usually made them more
loose.
Like, but also like they were much more in charge of their own sexual power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So see like Pussy Galore or some of the other female Bond villains. I like Monica Bellucci because she is like one of the older Bond girls, probably the oldest Bond girl, I think.
And yet she is still hot.
Oh my god, she's so hot. And plus she's just a better actress, or is playing her part better in the film.
Yeah, well, she knows how to play these kind of like seductive, alluring, ladies like this. She's played it in many other movies before. It's just, we don't see ladies of her age in Bond movies like this, which is appealing.
She gives off a natural thing where of like, oh my god, is Bond seducing her right now, or is she playing along with it? Because she could easily be going along with it just to portray him later. She gives off this little sense of danger, just naturally, that is like more interesting than what the other girl, who I can't even remember, is. Yeah. But yeah, so that was a grand disappointment. Let's see what else. I read
and you had to listen to that whole song, the intro song for that one too.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I just remember the weird octopus visuals that went along with it. Yeah, there was like this, because Spectre is this octopus symbol, like that's because it's got tentacles and everything. They decided to use an octopus in the opening sequence all over the place, and it looks weird. Like, look, all the Bond openings are very stylistic, you know, the silhouettes and, you know, smoke.
The playing cards from Casino Royale.
Playing cards, killing each other, or women from smoke from guns, that sort of, you know, some surreal, trippy shit.
Right.
But that octopus looks way weird.
Keep the tentacles in Japan, guys. Come on now.
Like I don't know what makes it so out of place with the other weird stuff that shows up in the Bond openings, but it is just it does not make sense. Like
it does not.
But let's see what else. I read the most recent Avatar comic, the Legend of Korra comic.
Okay, how was that?
The recent volume that came out. It's very interesting. They dig right deep into the LGBTQ representation of both Korra and Asami being together.
Nice.
Like they go on their vacation. They finally share a kiss, like a full on kiss that you get to see in the panel. After the vacation is done, Korra and her visit Korra's parents in the Northern Water Tribe to tell them that they're together. And they're very happy, but they're a little like, hey, maybe you should be a little cautious. Not everyone is going to understand.
Right.
And they go into how progress has been sexual progress has been stunted in this universe, apparently, because the most free and progressive people were the air nomads.
Oh.
And they're gone.
Yeah.
So the Water Tribe is like the second most progressive, I guess, where they're accepting, like in their own family, but they prefer your sexual proclivities to be within your own household, sort of thing. Fire Nation outlawed it completely and executed people fucking Holocaust style.
Sounds about right.
It's kind of dark. Like, it's pretty dark for a fucking kid's comic. Earth Nation, the Earth Kingdom is very conservative, apparently. And because they're the largest fucking nation, that's what's the biggest problem is.
Also, not surprising.
So it doesn't, like, there is a plot going on with the spirits not liking that she opened up a fucking portal, as a solution to the ending of the series. You know, where she opens up that new portal with the spirit gun and whatnot. And I do like the same spirit that told her to fuck off at the season finale, like, nah, that's a human problem, we're not going to get involved in it, is now mad that there's a spirit portal. And I'm like, well, maybe if you guys helped out, I wouldn't have had to do this.
Yeah.
But
fuck off.
But now it's like, well, now it's a spirit problem. Oh, I'm sorry. Now that it affects you, it's a fucking problem. Like, I really hate that spirit that is turning out to be the main antagonist. He's such a dick.
It seems like Korra's journey is fraught with bad or underthought decisions, like all throughout the seasons. And I've only seen the first 2.5, maybe, but it seems like every big decision that solves a problem opens up 10 more problems for her. Just, I don't know. It's an endless situation.
Well, I think with Korra, it's all about change with the times. Like as modern technology and as culture goes forward, Korra has to realize, like, well, the role of the Avatar is such a long-standing thing, and that's what happened with the previous comic series after the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang has to cut off his connection with his previous Avatar lives because they want everything to go back the way it was. They don't want a Republic City.
Right.
They don't want the nations mixing together because they think, like, no, it only works if we're all separate. And Aang is kind of like, well, they've already gotten mixed together. Like I was gone for 100 years. Like the damage is already done. Now I can only, work to save this new place. So, and he founds Republic City to have everyone, like, from any nation can come and be a part of it.
It's like, no, pick that carrot out of that soup. I just do not want those carrots in that soup.
Yeah, and you realize that Roku and all the other avatars are very conservative in the way they view things. Of like, no progress, no change, and it's like, and Aang's like, that's not how life works. So I really appreciate that in the comic, it really doesn't shy away from any of these
social issues.
No, any of these issues. A lot of it is just like Asami and Korra telling other people that they're together, which I like. Mako has to take a second, like, oh, you guys are together? And Bolin's like, that must be weird for you. Just kind of like just sticking it to him. But yeah.
Yeah, but it also kind of underlines why I haven't been as interested in Korra, is that it feels like they don't have much else to do with the characters other than, yeah, these two guys are gay, Mako's kind of a tool, and Bolin is just Bolin, you know? It felt like the comics for The Last Airbender had a lot more broader range to cover, in my opinion, personally.
Well, we still have the spirit portal thing to go on. I think the main thing is that the Legend of Korra was supposed to feel like the ending of Korra was supposed to feel very final and climactic, and not leave stuff open because it's like, well, we're not going to do another series after this, or at least we don't think so. But I'm definitely enjoying it to a point where I don't have some of the problems I had with some of the previous comics that they did, like The Search, where they let Azula go for like no reason a lot, and they just make some decisions that are super weird. They haven't done that yet, but
I kind of like that one, but that's just me.
I just feel like they repeat stuff so often of like Azula escapes and then goes crazy, and then then she snaps out of it, and then she goes crazy again and then snaps out of it, and it's just like there's a little bit of too much of repetitive storytelling there. But I don't know, to each his own on that one. Anyone else watching anything or reading anything lately?
Yes, actually. So I went to the theater the other day and I saw 2 movies back to back, as I usually do these days. So the first one I saw was I, Tonya, that new biopic about Tonya Harding that came out.
Cool.
And it was really, really good. It's one of those movies where it's a comedy, but it's a comedy that's deeply, deeply disturbingly dark in certain ways. Like, it's mostly a straightforward telling of the Tonya Harding story with some of the stuff that's like, some contradictory details, stuff that you can't prove one way or the other, but you can't deny one way or the other. And you kind of laugh at the absurdity of it until you realize most of the stuff more or less happened. And it's only funny because it seems like it's totally far-fetched, but it happened pretty much that way. So you're just kind of watching uncomfortably, but enjoying it at the same time at how everything just kind of fell apart Coen Brothers style with this mystery behind the Tonya Harding stuff. Because it really does feel like at one point you're like, oh yeah, this is the part when the stupid idiots get involved in a Coen Brothers movie and screw it up for everybody. And sure enough, they found the stupidest of idiots in this best friend character of the main husband, because that guy, you see the documentary footage at the end and his interviews during the movie. He's a legit insane person. Like, he's a dude who's this fat moron who lives with his parents at like age 36, but he claims like, oh yeah, I'm an international hitman, I've been trained in special forces espionage, and I'm a master of Krav Maga. And he barely does anything in the movie except make some of the dumbest and worst decisions possible that screwed up everyone else's lives, pretty much. You're just like, dude, what is wrong with you?
Sounds like a fun guy.
Oh man, I'm surprised nobody just punched him flat out in the face and kicked him in the balls. Like, they're too nice for their own good to their best friends like that.
But Justin, he knows Krav Maga. I wouldn't want to do that to someone who knows Krav Maga.
Yeah, I did watch one of the interviews with him, and he is crazy. He's a crazy person.
And they found the perfect guy to play him. And also, that's just to say, all the actors were great in that movie. Freaking what's his name? Winter Soldier.
Sebastian Shaw.
No, Stan.
Sebastian
Shaw is X-Men. Yeah,
that's right.
That's why I tried to stop myself because I was thinking Shaw too.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of the X-Men villain. Damn it.
Yeah, this is probably the best performance Sebastian Stan's ever done, playing the husband character, because he really nailed just this guy who's full of complexity and being kind of nebbishy, kind of, dorky in his redneckness, but also with all the abusive redneck tendencies of, being a spousal abuser, being a moron, kind of stuff like that. But the 2 people who stand out the most, like one, Allison Janney as Tonya Harding's mother, is hilarious and hateable and terrifying and amazing in this. Because she is a person who is literally incapable of being a nice person. Like, you could not do it. They try on several occasions to try and make her look nice or try to have her play nice with people. She just cannot be nice to people. She will find a way to insult them or to physically abuse them. It's just relentless, and it's so fascinating to watch every time they try to talk to this lady. But
I like how you describe her as physically incapable.
No, seriously, like there's a point they try to test her. Like, you almost think that she does something nice at one point in the movie where it's like, oh, that was really sweet. And then you realize the true motivation behind it. You're like, oh, screw you, lady. Jeez.
What a bitch.
But then Margot Robbie, gosh dang, she pulled out all the stops in this movie. Like, she is a force of nature playing Tanya Harding. She's likable, she's hateable, she's charismatic, she goes through such a gamut throughout this film. She's going to get an Oscar nomination. I have no doubts about it. She's going to be up for the top performances of the year, and she deserves it. She really showed what she could do. She's not just Harley Quinn. She's not just that hot girl from The Wolf of Wall Street. She's a legitimately great actress.
No, when she came on the scene, I remember it's like, wow, she is a very immediately engaging presence of an actress where there's like a lot going on with her performance that even in The Wolf of Wall Street, where she is just playing the hot chick, like there's not really anything to her role other than I have to be hot and tempting to Leonardo DiCaprio. And there's still like, wow, she's really playing the shit out of this. So that does not surprise me to hear that.
Well, and also they had to ugly her up in this movie. Like, and Tanya Harding's not ugly, but she's not Margot Robbie.
Right.
So they had to, dress her down, give her like lots of ugly sweaters, rough up her face a little bit to give her that redneck edge. And they nailed it. Like, they made her look so in character. It's just, it's amazing. So, but then the other movie I saw, which is almost the complete opposite of I, Tanya, Paddington 2.
Yes, that would be quite the opposite.
So British. So proper.
I think that's a perfect movie. Like, there is literally nothing I could fault Paddington 2 for. Like, I can only say it's not as funny as Paddington 1, but it's way more heartfelt. In a weird way, like, how is it that this movie, it has fewer jokes, but it impacts you so much harder? It's so charming. And I get, like, look, there will be some people who will just be completely cynical and immovable to Paddington. It's just not their thing. But Paddington may be the most lovable character ever. Like, he's sweet, he's witty, he's, good-natured. Oh, what?
British.
He's
and
so
British. Very British.
British.
But it's just such a great character and a great performance by Ben Whishaw, oddly enough, from Spectre. He plays Q. And it's a great cast. You got Hugh Bonneville playing the main dad of the family, and freaking what's her name from Shape of Water, Sally Hawkins.
Okay.
And then you got some great supporting performances from people like, of all people, one of the most charismatic and funny villains of the last year was Hugh Grant in this movie, where he's playing a retired actor who's resorted to doing dog food commercials. And he is a guy who plays the actor like, he's playing the cliche of what people think of like British actors, quote, quote. And even going to 11 where it's like, oh no, this dude, outside of this cute veneer, he's probably a borderline schizophrenic because he like embodies himself to these characters so hard. He has conversations with himself in character through every single character.
Okay.
Okay.
It's so fun. And then, freaking Brendan Gleeson shows up at one point as a convict.
I love that guy.
Oh, he's hilarious. Like, Brendan Gleeson only plays Brendan Gleeson, but it's every shade of Brendan Gleeson that we love, It's just
the many shades of Brendan Gleeson.
I know. And that's the thing, this movie is just so charming. Like, there was not a single point where I just went, "Aww." It's adorable. And I tell you, you may think that it's just a dumb kids movie from the trailers, but it's so much more than that. It's kid friendly, but it is not stupid, it is not condescending, and it is not cloying. It is a very witty, charming, heartfelt, and genuine film. And it's totally unironic. Like, there's no attempts to make this like modern, no attempts to make it hip. Like, there's no rap music, there's no rock music, there's no attitude, quote, quote, in that sense, other than making fun of kind of like chavish culture with kids in that way. It's just, again, it's flawless. I couldn't believe it when I was saying, I'm like, Paddington 2 is an almost perfect movie.
Wow.
All right. Well, apparently, according to Justin, he's got the theory that Paddington 2 is going to take it away with all the Oscars this year.
You know what? You joke, but it got nominated for BAFTAs for Best Supporting Actor for Hugh Grant and Best Screenplay. So some people think that it's of awards quality.
Nice. Good on you, Hugh. All right.
Yeah, so, but then one last thing. I know we're running a little long on this, but I've been playing Persona 5 like crazy.
Okay.
And I really, really dig it. It's a slow-paced game because
all the
it's a turn-based
Personas are.
RPG.
Travis played that. You played that one too, right?
Like 90 hours of it. Shut up.
Yeah, no, but once you get into it, once you get the groove of it, because it's a little dense to learn all the mechanics at first, but it paces it enough where once you get into its groove, you're like, okay, I'm with you, game. I get where you're going, and it's very fun so far. So,
All right. Well, that sounds absolutely entertaining. I know Travis has got a bunch of games coming up this month that he's probably is into.
There's like 4 games I have interest coming out this month, and I can afford like one of them. Like, all right, which one of you is the ugliest? All right, now let's just keep going down the list. Which one do I hate most? Will's gonna get Dissidia NT, the Final Fantasy fighting game, and I played the demo, and it was like, oh my god, that stupid Moogle voice would not shut the fuck up. Oh my god, no, it wasn't even the
Kubo.
cutesy Kupo voice. It was like this small child going, or like not even a small child, but like just a woman going, Kupo, Kupo. I'm like, I'm going to murder you. Yeah,
no, so like she doesn't even put an accent on the Kubo.
It's just Kupo, Kupo,
Yeah.
Kupo, Kupo. I'm like, say
All
Kupo,
right.
say Kupo one more time. Say
Kubo again. Say Kubo one more goddamn time.
Luckily, that seems to be only in the tutorial for some reason. You can like turn it off everywhere else except for the tutorial. So I was like, well, fine.
They speak English in Kubo? Kubo ain't a country I ever heard of.
Still probably end up getting that one despite everything because I love the other games.
Sure. So yeah, with that, should we move on to the news, guys?
Sure, let's have
Hey,
Justin
very
talk
quick
some more.
news.
So let's go into this just in with Justin. Oh, hold on a second. Twist, because I actually wanted to start with the first news story, if that's all right.
Dun dun dun.
All right, lay it on me.
Because I wanted to talk a little bit about the Dan Harmon apology that just came out. If those of you don't know, Dan Harmon was accused of sexual assault from one of the previous community writers. I forget her name. Let's see, I think I have the article up here. But it was similar to some of the other accusations going on right now. He did not deny any of it. In that he basically harassed her at work, and she felt very uncomfortable because he was her boss and was trying to be as nice about rebuffing him as possible. I think he even broke up his relationship with his live-in girlfriend over it to pursue her.
Wow.
And it was just basically made her...
The writer's name is Megan Gans, right?
Megan Gans, yeah. So
there we go.
she just shared her story of like, yeah, this is basically my story of how a guy was very, stalkery with me and used his position because it's like she thought like, okay, if I fully tell this guy to fuck off, I'm gonna get fired.
Right.
And to her credit, like it's after like he did break up with his girlfriend and try and go after her, and she rebuffed him again. I think he did admit that, like, yeah, and then I started to treat her like shit because I'm like, oh, you want to be just like any other writer? Well, I'll treat you like any other writer. And the thing I wanted to bring up about this was that he gave this apology on his podcast. Speaking of podcasts, his podcast Harmontown, and he gives this apology that is. Remember when I said about Kevin Spacey, where the apology he should have given?
Yeah, not the one he gave.
This is basically the best you are gonna get here. Is he was very candid and open about his mistakes and like what his thought process was during it, and he was just very honest. It was very shocking. Here's some of it right here. Quote, I lied to myself the entire time about it, and I lost my job. I ruined my show. I betrayed the audience. I destroyed everything, and I damaged her internal compass. And I moved on. I've never done it before, and I will never do it again. But certainly wouldn't have been able to do it if I had any respect for women. On a fundamental level, I was thinking about them as different creatures. I was thinking about the ones that I liked as having some special role in my life, and I did it all by not thinking about it. And that's just a small segment of a very long apology. And yeah, it was. I found it. I'm like, you know what? Dan Harmon is a guy I've always respected and not liked very much because every time I hear about a story with him, he sounds like a very abrasive kind of guy.
Not the best person to work with.
He strikes me as a guy full of self-loathing, and that even comes across in his work a little bit.
Yeah, he seems very depressed. Like,
yeah, and he works that through a lot with his creative process of him trying to reconcile with himself. Well, a lot of his
do.
Yeah, and I guess I just now he's a guy that I'm like, well, I still don't like you very much, but I think I respect you a whole lot more on a weird level. Because even Gantz on her Twitter was saying that, like, this is basically exactly what I wanted when I shared this story. It's like she said the story was never about vengeance; it was about vindication, and felt like I was being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, this apology did make her feel like exactly like acknowledged, and that she was right to think, like, you know, in the back of her mind, she was like, okay, I was completely right about the way I felt about this sort of thing. And that meant a whole lot to her. So,
and she forgave him, apparently.
And yeah, she publicly forgave Dan Harmon. I think I have it right here. This was never about vengeance, it's about vindication. That's why I didn't feel right to just accept his apology in private, although I did that too, because if any part of this process should be done in the light, it's the forgiveness part. And so, at Dan Harmon, I forgive you. And that was after a long thread of her own apologies as well too. And yeah, he was very open about, like, please don't attack her because of this. This was all my fault. I don't know. It was just one of these times where one of these things ended with, like, oh yeah, this is basically what
should be happening.
This is probably what should be happening after this. So I don't know. I obviously the best thing was that it never happened in the first place. Obviously,
but it has, so that's irrelevant.
But as far as someone handling their mistakes and respecting another person's grievance with them,
and someone calling them out,
I think this is the best example so far. So I will give my respect to Dan Harmon for doing that, and, you know, being open about it.
Well, respect to the, you know, writer too for doing that, where she does publicly announce her, you know, accepting his apology, because I think that is very important.
Sure, that takes courage as well too.
It does.
So I think that was, I don't know, it was just a story that I read this past week that I was like, wow, that was actually, you know, out of a situation, like, for the, you know, how many people being accused nowadays, it was nice to see that, like, most of the time the thing is to, like, deny or like no, that's not how it happened.
That's not
or
how I viewed it, or something like that.
It's so rare that anyone just fully acknowledges that, like, oh, it's cool. And I'm just wondering what the response is, because hopefully, you know, it's not like, you know, once you apologize, it's like, aha, you admitted guilt or whatever, let's all jump on him. And I'm just kind of like,
it seems like people have not been reacting badly to it. Like, it seems like the lack of news means that it's probably good news for him.
Yeah,
I think so. I think so too.
Yeah, though the problem is, I feel like with apologies, because it's important to apologize, it's important to do this, and this is what I've argued about this whole movement, is that where is the option for retribution and to make amends for those who are truly repentant, like Dan Harmon seems to be. You know, if he truly does mean what he says, he should have the platform to say that and to be able to open the dialogue for it. It's just the problem that we live in such a society that's quick to, you know, punish these people. And some people deserve to be punished, absolutely, you know, kind of thing. So then, I think that's the problem, though, is that because we've made it so severe of punishments for so many people, a lot of people are afraid to come out with these things. You know, they're afraid to accept responsibility, because especially if it's something that borders on criminal, you know, that's self-implication in that sense, too. So there's lots of these minefields we've set in the name of progress that's kind of hindering progress. But for those people who can get away with it like this, that's important. It's important to show how the proper way to make this works, you know?
Yeah, so I guess I was just very, you know, impressed with how that all worked out and the maturity level on both sides. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I saw the one, like, you know what? We won't even go into it because I know I'm going to make somebody mad. Like, you see the Aziz Ansari thing.
I saw bits and pieces of it, but I didn't actually read the whole story.
Yeah, that was a weird one. That I'm like, okay, are we including this type of thing too in the Me Too movement? Which it was basically it boiled down to, like, it being a bad date situation with the woman.
I'm so surprised that it's come around that way, because it seemed like at first people were starting to go like, man, screw Aziz Ansari. But shortly afterwards, there's been a tidal wave of, no, this is not helpful at all to anybody.
Well, if you read the article, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing because I know like how volatile this sort of thing is, and I'm very much with the whole we should out people where you know, we should root people out where sexual assault and, you know, and that sort of thing is happening. But Aziz Ansari, it was basically, she said she was very uncomfortable. She did a couple sex acts, and then when he asked, like, if to do full vaginal sex, I guess, after some oral sex. She was like, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And he said, okay, all right, well then, and then they stopped. And then I was like, okay, well, all you said that you were uncomfortable, but then you said once you verbally said that you were uncomfortable, he stopped.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm like,
what's supposed to happen.
And I'm like, well, yeah, that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe you were uncomfortable. Sure, I believe your complete side of it. But from your own story, this does not really count as assault. It just counts like an awkward sexual situation.
Yeah.
Like it's, and we've all had them. Don't get me wrong. I wish a couple of mine didn't happen, but like, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Like not every sexual encounter you're going to have is going to feel completely comfortable. Some of them are going to be weird and be like, but as far as like when he fully got the message of like when she verbally communicated, I'm not cool with this, he stopped. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to like say like it's the end all be all or anything, but like that was the most important part I took away from the article. So
yeah.
But with that out of the way, Justin, what do we got in the news?
Well, just one last note on there is that one of my best friends here at my university is Pakistani Indian, origin.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big deal for him because Aziz Ansari was really close to his heart because of their shared background and ethnicity. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting to see how his discussion about it shaped with the national discussion of it. The idea where he's like, he couldn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it's true that he's an assaulter. And then once people started to talk about these things, refuting the severity of it, still saying it was a creepy thing to do, but it's not assault in that same way that these other cases are assault. And it's just been interesting to see it on that level of people who I know who actually are associated with that celebrity in that sense. So I thought that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from that point, there's a few, I'm going to try to hit only the major nerdy parts.
Yeah, we're running a little long, so we'll have to speed through the news segment here. Sorry, we spent so much time on sexual assault. Damn it. That's the real problem of the the Weinstein.
We're
sexual
contributing
assault
to the problem of clogging. Yeah, we're contributing to clogging the media with news. But so there's the Flashpoint movie is still supposedly happening, and right now they're trying to get 2 new directors onto it. John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who helped write Spider-Man: Homecoming. So yay!
Okay.
But they also wrote and directed that terrible Vacation remake.
Ooh,
so.
No. Well,
yeah,
I know when I have a problem, I stick 2 people instead of 1 on it. So that'll fix it.
Yeah, I don't. The one thing that does sound more confident than that, though, is the new Shazam movie that's coming out. The guy who did Lights Out.
Shazam.
And yeah, so Shazam, people know he's a B-list, slowly rising superhero kind of thing of a kid who turns into an adult superhero. But that's now been set for April 5th, 2019 to release, a month before Avengers 4.
Yeah, I was thinking actually of that, and remember when The Rock was being bandied about as playing Black Adam and or Shazam?
Yeah.
And
he's still playing Black Adam, and that's still set to happen that he may cameo in Shazam before his own movie.
Well, I was thinking about it like in Jumanji, where he plays a kid that's now got a rock body, and how well he plays it there.
Very well.
Remember when he pokes his own muscle, like, oh my god, I'm huge. And I just thought, like, this is a scene. This is a scene right out of Shazam.
It's true.
He's playing Shazam right now. Like,
yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
It was so missed. I don't understand. It was complete. Like they almost had it. Like what the fuck?
But the good news with that is that along with the cast now is Mark Strong, who's confirmed to play Dr. Sivana, which I believe is the main antagonist of the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then
he's not playing Sinestro again.
No, which he apparently made a big deal, just like, I'm coming back to DC with a vengeance. I'm not going to let Sinestro beat me, man. I'm going to play a cool character this time. Like Dr. Sivana, who no one's ever heard of. But the other actor is Ron Cephas Jones from This Is Us, that TV show, which he's really, really good in. I've seen some of the episodes of it. He's going to play the Wizard in that in the movie.
So Shazam himself.
Yeah, or what, I don't know, now that the actual hero is called Shazam, the wizard used to be called Shazam. Are they both called Shazam now?
I guess.
You would know where I would.
I think the idea is he's playing a mentor character like that. So, I mean, whatever role, it's just that, Ron Cephas Jones is old as the hills, so he's not playing a young character in this one. So it's like, yeah, he's probably playing, the guy who inspires Shazam to become Shazam, or I don't know.
I don't know, I'm not sure of the naming thing, because look, last time I read Shazam, he was called Captain Marvel, so I I'm very confused, but I'm trying. I'm getting with it.
No. So officially now it's just Shazam, which Shazam technically is an acronym. I think that's what they justify it with now.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway, Black Lightning had a huge debut this last week. The new show from CW.
Still have not caught it. I actually really want to watch that one.
Yeah, I heard it's great. Like, the reviews have been really strong, and it's now the biggest premiere on CW in the last 2 years since The Flash debuted and Supergirl.
What?
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so they promoted it really well, and it was a huge hit. So
Considering no one knows who Black Lightning is, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Now, let's see if they can keep the ball rolling, because they can have strong starts, and then they kind of lose their way a little bit with these superhero shows. So,
Oh, let's face it. I'm already looking forward to the third season slump for Black Lightning. But the second
Yeah.
season's going to be amazing.
Speaking of third seasons, Legends of Tomorrow is still going on, and apparently Wally West will show up in Legends of Tomorrow, but it's not clear if he's going to be the new addition to the cast after Dr. Stein left, or if he's just going to be a cameo. So, just expect to see him there somewhere.
Well, I feel like they need to stick him somewhere, because, like, this Central City doesn't need two speedsters, it
No.
seems like. So, I would like that have a good speedster on the Legends team, because that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be pretty cool. So this is still a rumor, but there may be a Red Sun animated movie in development.
Actually, I did
Bruce
hear
Timm's
that
hinted
one.
at that. Oh, sorry?
I did hear about that one, because who's the one making it?
Oh, well, Bruce Timm was the one who hinted at it, because
Yeah,
he's
that's
in
right.
charge of the studios there. And so yeah, it's not confirmed for sure, but they're like, yeah, we're in serious discussion to making a Red Sun movie. So I would watch it. I think Red Sun,
Awesome.
except for the way it ended, is one of my favorite of the graphic novel, Elseworld comics. So
Love those Elseworld things. Yep.
yeah.
And I really...
I think it'll all depend on how well Gotham by Gaslight does. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the Bruce Timm, like, even Bruce Timm with their animated shorts, like, they're not as good as they used to be.
No.
At least from their most recent stuff. I haven't watched the Batman and Harley Quinn one, but I did watch, the Teen like anything to deal with the Teen Titans and the Justice League ones. Like, none of them are very good since Throne of Atlantis.
they're not bad. I mean, I like the Teen Titan ones. Okay, they're not great, but they're not bad either.
But they used to be so fucking good.
They used to be amazing.
They used to be like Red Hood level, and now they're like, okay, that was all right, I guess. Like,
That's tolerable.
Yeah. So from there, Paddington 2 is now technically the best reviewed movie ever on Rotten Tomatoes because of its high critical average.
They just
That's
can't
funny.
they just cannot give that cute little bear a rod, and they're looking right into his fucking eyes on the IMDb page, and it's like, damn it.
Hey,
Can't do it.
That bear earned it, man. But also, they've officially cast Ivan Drago's son for Creed 2. And, it is a professional boxer whose name is, oh boy, Florian Montinu, I think is his name. But so yeah, they're actually getting an actual boxer to play the son of Ivan Drago for Creed 2.
Well, cool. Well, I mean, for Ivan Drago, it's not really important that, like, well, I mean, maybe the son is better, but if he's going to be a stand-in for Ivan Drago, him speaking is not really important. Like, it's not a breaker, a make or break thing, I think.
Sure. I mean, I'm excited to see Dolph Lundgren anyways, but hey, I'm just curious to see this because I mean, they replaced directors that last we reported too with someone new. So, I'm curious. I'm a little worried with Creed 2, but it has potential to be good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Leo DiCaprio is officially going to be the lead in Quentin Tarantino's new movie. The one that's set in 1969 that's involving the Manson family.
Right.
So that's cool. Another chance to see him after Django Unchained, when they worked together for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because the other person who's going to be in a Charles Manson movie, the family, is Matt Smith from Doctor Who. So,
Okay.
I don't know if I see it, but okay.
Who's he playing?
He's in talks to play Charles Manson.
Charles Manson, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Maybe. We'll see what happens there. Bob Odenkirk is going to star in an action movie, believe it or not, from the John Wick writer Derek Kolstad. So, Better Call Saul is going to be an action star.
Really? Like, that's it? I mean, okay. Is it like an action comedy? or is it
What
gonna,
are we talking here?
are they going to play it completely serious?
I know there's a plot synopsis somewhere, but it's a movie called Nobody. That's all we know so far, or at least all I know. I'm just intrigued by the idea. You know, Bob Odenkirk must be just loving this late career resurgence that Breaking Bad gave him. You know, it's just. I just want to see this. I want to see what's happened. Like, apparently anybody can be an action hero nowadays. You know, you could be 16 or 67. You could be any age, any size. As long as you have a good writer and a good action stunt team, anyone can be an action star these days. Just,
I guess.
Sure.
Just work that editing, man. Matt Damon and Jason Bourne, that shit.
So Hulu is developing a sequel to March of the Penguins, believe it or not. You remember that documentary from 2005?
Yeah, I don't believe it. That's
the one everyone gets their Morgan Freeman impression from? Yeah, I remember.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's apparently the story is that they're going to develop a sequel. And Hulu is making big pushes right now to be a big content distributor. Like, buying up old properties, making new properties. They're making their mark.
Right,
yeah,
I guess that.
I was telling them they have all of the James Bond movies right now, and they have like all the Indiana Jones movies and some other cool stuff.
Yes, indeed.
If I were to make a suggestion, maybe fix your stupid navigation to where you can actually effectively watch shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's awful, guys. I don't.
Hulu and Verve are both kind of terrible.
Well, I mean, we were trying to figure like, okay, I want to watch a specific episode of a TV series, and you got to go out to episode details and then go into episodes and come down. It's like, how is this like one button press on Netflix, and I have to go through some sort of Rorschach fucking riddle with you? Like, it's abysmal. I hate it. Also, it crashes like all the goddamn time.
It is the worst app for that. Like, I don't have any apps like that crash anymore. And then Hulu's just like, oh, gotta restart it now. Okay. Oh, wait,
yeah.
where was I? I don't remember the episode number. Fuck. All right, which one did I watch last? Oh, there it is.
So maybe spend some money on that.
Infrastructure needs help.
Yeah, going from there, Scoot McNairy, who's a character actor I love a lot. We recently saw him in Fargo season 3, where he was that dingus parolee that was working with Ewan McGregor in the beginning of the season. He's going to join True Detective season 3 as one of the new characters. So
they're
that's
really
awesome.
doing the True Detective thing, huh?
I was about to say, I didn't realize they were making the season 3.
They greenlit it. Mahershala Ali is leading it with Carmen Ejogo, and then what's his name? Stephen Dorff also is one of the lead stars in this one. So from Blade. I'm really excited about that.
Great. Well,
yeah, and it's being directed by the guy who did Green Room's directing it too. So
nice. I like that film a lot. All right. Okay. Well, maybe I'll give it a second shot then.
Yeah,
I do love that someone named their son Scoot. Like, every time I think of Scoot McNairy, I'm like, really? Someone named you Scoot? Your parents are terrible.
They must really hated you.
Like, they must have hated you a lot.
All right, scoot onto the hospital. Oh, what was your name?
Scooter is a name. Scooter is a name, to be fair. But, yeah, Scoot.
Sure, of a Muppet, but not a person. Like, that's ridiculous.
Just a little bit.
Oh, man, he got teased a lot. I feel bad now. Because you know he got teased as a kid.
I'm sure. There's a John Wick TV series in development that's actually moving forward now called The Continental. That's actually focusing on the that hotel with the possibility of Ian McShane. Yeah, Ian McShane's co-starring in it, possibly too. So.
Oh my God, yes. I want that very bad.
That sounds awesome, actually.
That is the. Yeah. I mean, when you say John Wick TV series, I go, and then you say The Continental, I'm like, yes, take the most interesting part of that film and expand out on it. I love the idea of a hitman hotel.
That's amazing.
I'm fascinated with the inner workings. How do you do like a day-to-day in a hitman hotel? Let's make a sitcom out of it. With Ian McShane just having to run around fixing crazy problems for Hitman all the time. It's like the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, but if they were hitmen.
And a bunch of celebrity cameos from like sitcom stars like John Goodman and Roseanne Barr or something like that.
Yes. Roseanne Barr and Roseanne and John Goodman are both hitmen that are estranged and divorced, and they have to come together and team up to take out one assassin during their mission, and then come together and reconcile after that.
So basically, you're making Hitman Hotel as well as a Mr. and Mrs. Smith sequel?
Yeah, as well as what happens to at the end of Roseanne afterwards as well. Like,
okay, this is amazing. I want it.
Let's you know what? Pen to paper right now. We're writing scripts.
Let's do this.
Let's go.
That's awesome. Monsters, that movie from 2000, I forget what year, 2010, I think, that Gareth Edwards started with. That's getting adapted to a TV series. So, okay.
Okay. I mean, that seems expensive, a prospect for making monsters and stuff. Especially for a movie I don't think a lot of people remember.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, and people liked it enough, but I can't imagine that people loved it to say, like, yeah, I really want to see monsters being adapted. Why the Last Man? I mean, this is more a speculative piece, but, you know, there's been the shakeups going on with American Gods, where they lost their showrunners and some of their stars because of, you know, the company stars being dicks about the budget, apparently. Mm-hmm. But the good news is Michael Green, who was one of the showrunners, he's the guy who's in charge of Why the Last Man, the TV series they're adapting. And so that means that might actually move forward now on FX since he has a little bit more time in his schedule.
My God, an FX show, the last of Why the Last Man. I really love Why the Last Man.
I do too. It's great.
Downer ending and everything.
It's downer, but it's very hopeful at the same time too. It's a weirdly melancholy ending, you know?
Well, I think what fixes it is the epilogue. Like, it's a downer, but then the epilogue is like, it comes in like, yes, things are going to be all right. Which is a good way to do a downer ending, I think, is to have a little bit of an uplifting epilogue near the end. Not unlike that zombie show we watched that one time. What was it? In the Flesh?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Remember that one had a super fucked up dark ending, but then the epilogue is kind of like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Could have been worse.
But yeah, Why the Last Man is such a great comic book series, guys. If you wanted to check out some comic books that aren't superhero related, I would suggest that one first and foremost, probably.
Yes. Speaking of a comic, though, that is slightly superhero related, The Boys is getting a lot of casting done right now. The Amazon's adaptation of that Garth Ennis graphic novel. Mm-hmm, and, there's a bunch of actors, some of which you probably won't know of, but the biggest get they got was Anthony Starr from Banshee. And all these actors are being casted as members of the Seven, the group of superheroes that they wrangle, the whole entire time.
Yeah, their version of the Justice League.
Yeah, pretty much. So Anthony Starr is playing the Homelander from that series. So, there's still no news yet about if they're gonna who they're casting for the main people. You know, the main the boys themselves, but. I'm very curious. They're getting quite a good selection of character actors involved with this. So, hey.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if The Boys plays well with today's audience of, like, especially with sexual assault in the workplace being such a big thing now. The Boys kind of treats it like it's like this big kind of gross joke of, like, the heroes all fuck one another and peer pressure newbies to fuck the higher guard.
Ew.
Yeah, that's how that comic starts, was with a new hero trying to join up with the Seven or join their version of like the Justice Society and whatnot.
But then having a bunch of people kick the crap out of them might help a little bit. So
right, but I mean I guess the comic does treat them as they are the bad guys the whole time.
Okay.
Like, it never glorifies their actions.
So maybe if they turn to that skit, it'd be alright.
But again, it's, like, super gross and violent. Like, unbelievably so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in it.
Oh, definitely. So then, going from there, bunch of renewals. Walking Dead got renewed for season 9. But they replaced Scott Gimple as the showrunner with a new person, Angela King. So we'll see what happens with that.
I don't think it matters. I mean, I think at this point, I don't think you're getting anybody back to The Walking Dead.
And no one's going to start.
Well, I mean, it's gotten to the point now where unless you're going to finally wrap it up and say, this is the final season, maybe that'll get some people back. Because I think everybody else is kind of like, I know how Walking Dead goes, so nothing, I don't know. Maybe that's just how I feel about it. I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
Whatever. That's kind of my
whatever.
opinion.
That's about it.
Hey, you feel the same way I do. Whatever.
But The Tick has been renewed as well on Amazon for season 2.
Great.
Yep.
Still have not watched it yet, but I'm excited to.
No, me too. Cosmos got renewed for season 2. That, the show from Seth MacFarlane. So that's cool. Ryan Murphy's 911, which I hear is pretty good overall. This new cop drama that just started got renewed. But a bunch of series got canceled, including Shannara Chronicles, Lady Dynamite, I Love Dick, Jean-Claude Van Johnson, and One Mississippi. Because pretty much Amazon is cleaning house. They're like, no more indies. We're only doing big budget stuff now.
Oh, that makes me sad for Jean-Claude Van Johnson. I was just starting to watch that.
Yeah, no, that's a one-hit wonder. So
Boomer.
we'll probably see it on Les Weiler's new podcast.
the good die young, except for Jean-Claude Van Johnson, because he's super old.
Yeah. And then cutting through a bunch of stuff, because I do have to leave in a little bit too, for our first part at least. This is just funny. So, Saudi Arabia just got their first screening of films after a huge giant ban on movie theaters. The first two movies that got screened were Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, and the Emoji Movie.
Oh, wow.
And just like that, movies are banned again.
Yeah.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they were just trying to prove a point. Like, nope, see? Movies are trash.
be
Let's ban
careful
them.
what you wish for.
Yeah, so that's all I have to say. At the end of that note, that's all I got to say for right now.
Damn. That's way to end on a downer. You don't want to give me an uplifting epilogue?
It's
Like,
kind of funny, though.
what's releasing next week? Come on, at least tell me that they're getting like something good next week. It is funny. Well, thank you so much for the news, Justin. We're going to take a small musical break, and we'll be back with the our podcast that we listen to right after this.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playground is where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing on school, and all shooting some b-ball outside of the school. When a couple of guys who were up to no good started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in
And
one
welcome
little
back to
fight, and my mom
the
got scared and said,
podcast edition,
Uncle in Bel-Air.
the podcast, as we're calling it. Travis took a sabbatical. He took an out on this one because he just feels like he didn't have that much to contribute to the conversation since he does not listen to the podcast, or not even to his own podcast or any podcast in particular. But I know me and Justin listen to a few, so
Yeah, just a few.
I just want to take this opportunity, to maybe recognize some of the other podcasters that we respect and some of the other ones we really like. So, without further ado, let's just get
Wait,
into it.
do you not respect all the ones you like, or do you not like all the ones you respect?
There's some that I do like, but don't respect at all. Those pieces of trash. And there's some that I respect, but are boring as shit. You might notice a pattern of mine from like some of the podcasts that I really like. So I don't know, we can just go back and forth a little bit, but I really like podcasts about geeky stuff, the genre stuff, like movie review stuff, conversations, TV show, that sort of thing. So that's normally my jam. So a lot of stuff like, we talk about the Double Toasted guys a lot with some of their movie reviews and commentary and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, I listen to them every week. So there's only one of their shows I don't listen to, which is their new, version of the Casual Call-In show, the What's Up Son, because it's just not my jam. And it's fine; they have some funny segments on it, but I'm more there for the movie commentary and the news and that such.
Sure.
So.
I can listen to Danielle put her foot in her mouth constantly. So, but
Sometimes 2 feet, but
so there's right in there. The flexibility is impressive.
the depths that she can go.
And of course, I always listen to a bunch of stuff on the podcast network that you write for, the oneofus.net, and as well as do your own show for, the Eyes on the Prize.
Which I was going to promote also, is that, this is Chris Cox. He used to be the regular on Spill.com with the guys from Double Toasted, and even before Double Toasted dissolved, which I'm assuming he saw the writings on the wall in that case, he created his own website because they were cutting off his auxiliary podcast, Remote Viewing, and he was really pissed at that. So he formed the new show on oneofus.net called Digital Noise, which is still ongoing, where they review Blu-ray releases every week, and they kind of just spun a whole network out of it. So
and I really like that. I mean, the Spill.com is like my getting into podcasting was, or, getting to listening to podcasts. I started off with LEOG, or the League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, which was my original podcast I got really into, of just guys geeking out every week about certain stuff. Like that was really cool. You can't really find it anywhere now unless you torrent it.
which I have a few from that. So.
I have more than a few. I have basically all of them you can have. I did a as soon as I knew the site was going down, I back and downloaded the whole archive. So if anyone is out there,
that's kind of what I did too. Where I'm like, all the movie reviews, I need to save them. I'm like the Titanic, just putting all the women and children on the boats, kind of thing.
the comedies and action films first. But
yeah, it's really fun. Which they have a slightly new version of that called the Theog that they do now on their subscriber podcast.
Yeah,
which is
the original gentleman.
Yeah, which is now back to a little bit more comic focused, though they haven't been able to meet lately because Bo and Martin have been very busy with their own schedules. But, and this is not officially confirmed, but there's some rumblings about a new type of podcast that are going to do much more in the vein of Leog. That's kind of in the starting phases going on. I intercept some of Chris's emails because I'm in their chain.
Sure.
So yeah, look forward to that. It's kind of a more. It's almost like the Rage Cast and Rage Select, and kind of like the Leog combined.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'll be hearing more details about that in the coming weeks.
Cool. All right. Well, I am really looking forward to that. Of course, I also enjoy the names of their show too, like a highly suspect reviews. We were talking about Digital Noise before. I just do enjoy that all that content over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other minor podcasts. There's the Movie BS show. There's another new podcast that launched shortly around my time, which was the Books and Beer podcast, which is it's a fun show. It's just a bunch of guys geeking out about current literature and geek related stuff related to that. So sci-fi, dystopian novels, fantasy. It's entertaining if you're into that stuff.
Sure.
And then, of course, the single greatest podcast ever conceived, other than the Breakfast Pub, is the Eye on the Prize podcast by yours truly. So,
sure. Also, the thing that came out of that, Brian Salisbury used to be a member of the Leog, and C. Robert Carhill, who used to be a member of Spill, have their own podcast now, Junk Food Cinema, which I greatly enjoy. Which is
and Brian's been doing very well for himself. I believe he just got married recently.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, he just, Unfiltered Fiance, as he likes to call her, is now, and he's going to have to find a new name. Unfiltered Wife doesn't have the same ring to it, I don't think.
Yes, indeed. I mean, they're married, they have a kid, they're doing pretty well for themselves. So, and to be fair, when I went to visit them in Austin, he lost a ton of weight because back in the day he was kind of a portly fellow.
Mm-hmm.
He is slim and trim and a good-looking guy. Just saying.
I do. I really enjoy Junk Food Cinema as well, as they take the less. Sometimes, I mean, it used to be like the lesser known stuff. Like they're doing more mainstream stuff now, but it was they did stuff like Battle Beyond the Stars. Some sequels to other what was it they just did a whole Jean-Claude Van Damme month called JVC December, which was fun. So yeah, they take some of the high quality junk films, and then I always like that they pair it with a junk food at the end of it, with something appropriate that you can eat while you watch, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, no, so I haven't listened to them lately, but did they do JCVD the film also along with the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies? Or?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. I bought that on Blu-ray just recently at one of those discount stores. I really want to watch it.
Mm-hmm. That one did sound very interesting. Let's see what else. I also got into. We were speaking of Legend of Korra in the beginning of the podcast, and the voice of Korra has her own podcast, Janet Varney, which the JV Club, in which she interviews usually female celebrities, comedians and stuff like that, about their childhoods and stuff like that, their teenage years, some of the embarrassing stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's pretty fun. I always like to combine that one with Aisha Tyler's Girl on Guy, and you kind of get you get the male male part, male counterpart, and the female part of talking about people's origins, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, and just thinking about that too. I mean, one, Janet Varney, even with whatever problems I have with Korra in terms of writing, I always thought she was a good voice for Korra. She's a very good voice actress in that sense.
I always thought it was surprising she did, when I first found out she was the voice of Korra, and I'm like, oh, what else has she done? She actually does, that's one of her only voice credits. She's not as a prolific voice actor. She's in that show, damn it. Oh, what's it called? You're the Worst?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
she's on You're the Worst, and she has another one that's kind of a horror-ish.
Stand Against Evil, yeah, which is
that's it.
Super fun show that I think more people should watch.
And then she's also kind of friends with Chris Cox. They know each other from conventions and that stuff. So we have some connections with Janet Varney there.
Sure. We've actually had her on the podcast once or twice
Have you really?
as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I need to go back and listen to that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we met her at one of our first convention episode, DaishoCon, which is she was actually the first person I ever interviewed for the podcast. So that was pretty interesting.
That's awesome. I totally need to listen to that. That's amazing.
Very nice person. I wouldn't. I was very green at that point. I wish I would have done a couple stuff different, but we interviewed her later for our comedy episode, I think at around episode 40, so that was pretty fun. Let's see what else we got. I mean, I like listening to the TV dudes. I think you enjoy the TV dudes as well, don't you, Justin?
I do indeed. I listen to them every week. And, I do agree with a lot of their opinions. I sometimes think they can have some maybe slightly unreasonable opinions on a few things. I know Randy can be a little bit irascible in some of his opinions sometimes, but I think they're very fun to listen to. And they keep me up to date with a lot of stuff going on TV that I wouldn't know otherwise, So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the latest thing was them disagreeing on the Runaways or whatever. And
oh yeah, no, I remember you guys talking about how much you were. I think it was you guys. How split you were on feeling about Runaways.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they were very much in the same vein. Where they're like, yeah, Randy was kind of cool with it. Grant was not terribly cool with it.
Yeah, I think, and they didn't have Les on that episode, but me and Les went on a whole tangent of it. It was just like, what happened to this fucking show? But yeah, we've had Les on before. He's a friend of the pod, and he's one of the rotating TV dudes. So they're pretty good. Like if you like, it's hard to like have any kind of TV podcast that tries to cover a bunch of TV, because there's so much stuff to watch. They'll probably might not get to the thing that you're actually watching and want them to talk about. Like there's so many,
but they do cover quite a lot. So.
Oh, sure. Well, there's so many podcasts now that if you want to watch a TV podcast, it almost has to be dedicated to that show now. Like, there's a lot of dedicated, podcasts. Like, Les has his own, like, The Good Die Young, which is dedicated to one season wonders. And I really like, have you ever heard of something called Buffering the Vampire Slayer?
Nope, but I can assume that sounds like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer exclusive podcast.
Yes.
So, there we go.
They cover Buffy the Vampire Slayer one episode at a time, and they have special guests and stuff on. It's done by, Christine Russo and Jenny Owen Youngs, a gay couple that, are kind of viewing it through a female, gay lens of, the Buffy show, and it's really fun to listen to them talk about it. Because they give away stuff like every episode they give away a sexual tension award between two characters of who had the most sexual tension in the episode. And sometimes it goes in between three characters or what they call a throuple. It's like, and again this week it goes to Angel, Spike, and Drusilla, our favorite throuple of the show that we just wish would get into a threesome already. Yeah, and they have, like, little jingles for characters when they get excited. Like, they love Cordelia, apparently, so Cordelia has her own jingle that they play anytime Cordelia has a moment. It's just really fun.
They must not like the way that Angel treated Cordelia then.
I'm not sure. I don't think I'm not sure if they'll go into Angel at all. I think they're in season 3. Okay. They're in season 3 right now. Although if I was them, I'd do Angel as like a Patreon or something, maybe.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. So
yeah, yeah. Angel didn't do Cordelia I mean, they might as well just title Cordelia like, and here's another dumb reason to keep Cordelia around.
Yeah, no, and I think you know what? The title of the podcast, "Angels in the Podcast" or something like that, or like Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, sure. I thought it was like
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe Touched by an Angel, something going off of by that, but then. Man, it would just be...
No, okay, I was going to say Sucked by an Angel, but I think that has a bad connotation to it.
Oh, Angel's so chaste and like... so boring. I much prefer Spike. Spike's my man.
Okay.
I don't know, what are some of the podcasts you listen to, my friend?
I mean, that covers the majority of the ones I listen to be fair. But, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Rage Select, so I listen to the Ragecast every week, more or less. And, I have a dedication to Race Select because, again, they are from the Spill community, the Spill Extended Universe, or Cinematic Universe, if you want to call it that, I guess. But yeah, it's Jeff Schuessler and Jason, who used to be on the podcast a lot, but he's doing a lot more writing lately. So Jeff has a constantly rotating cast of people, including Chris Cox. There's Matt, who's a professional Godzilla comic designer. And, one of the biggest kaiju fanatics ever that I've ever heard in my life.
Matt Frank, I think, who does
really
his own
nice guy, though.
Who has his own podcast on One of Us, don't it? Like the Giganticast or something?
Yeah, which is pretty much only whenever he's available to record. But, yeah, they get to talk a lot about that. And then John Sitton and his fiancée Amanda, who are on there a lot. A lot of people join in. And, yeah, they just do 2-part playthroughs of new games that release every week. And then they have their podcast, the Ragecast, that just... Jeff essentially just complaining or praising whatever he thinks is on his mind at the moment. But it's fun. He tries to keep people up to date with video game news, keeps up to date with his personal life. He, talks about all kinds of different things. And it's entertaining. I think Jeff is one of those guys where he's a really nice dude. He really is dedicated with the stuff he likes. He can be a bit, he has a very specific set of interests, but he's not afraid to admit that at times. Just like, look, yeah, I maybe am not totally open to everything in the world, but I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and I'm okay with things trying to change me and impress me, but don't try to force me to change my opinions on things. And I can respect that enough from him.
Sure.
But yeah, once you get to know his way of thinking, it's just fun to listen to him. You start to understand the man behind the voice kind of thing.
I see. Well, that sounds like a fucking biopic. Like, understand the man behind the voice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not as complex as you think it is, but you understand the way Jeff thinks, where you're like, oh, well, of course he liked that movie he saw this week, or of course he didn't like this movie he saw this week, because I know Jeff now, so.
Well, and then if we're speaking about video game podcast...
like Last Jedi, so.
Well, if we're talking about video games for podcasts, we should give a shout out to our sister podcast, We Are Air. Those guys,
yes.
Chris and John, very fun guys, are nice enough to do some crossovers with us on a regular occasion. They're got some, video game commentary that's pretty insightful as well. Although I think they're slowing down on their content from what I heard from their most recent episode. I think they might be slowing down their release schedule, which is,
Well, I'm assuming because isn't Jonathan's getting married, right?
Pretty sure John is getting married. Everybody's getting married. Goddamn. But
yeah, except for me.
Yeah, yeah, and me, Justin. I think we found our solution. We have to marry each other. I think that's what it is.
I'm flattered, but
wow.
I mean, I'd have to move all the way out to Wisconsin and embrace the cold there.
I'll move there. I'm willing to make the sacrifice, Justin. I don't understand why you're not willing to put more into this relationship. I'm starting to feel like you're not as invested as I am.
It's a little complicated,
We will talk about this later. But
we'll talk about it at home. Okay. And I mean, I respect what Chris and John did with trying to break off from One of Us to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, there was a time when I stopped listening to We Are Air as often, just because I got so bogged down with time and such. And I felt kind of bad about it because Chris gave me a shout out on Breakfast Pub the other week. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, I need to catch back up on their material. But I didn't know that they were starting to slow down content, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's always hard with the release schedule. You want to commit to something you can do. I know we release 2 episodes a week. We release on Netflix and Kill, and a regular recording of the podcast every week, as well as I do video edits of like video reactions and stuff. So it's hard to keep like regular content going. I think
Chris works a lot too. He's got a busy job.
Yeah.
So
most of the stuff I listen to is usually once a week. Maybe some stuff on Patreon or whatever that they usually do. Oh, here's a good one too. If you guys are involved in politics at all, you might want to try this one if you're more of a, I guess, liberal or progressive persuasion, probably, because I really like the Pod Save America. They used to be what was it called? Keeping It 1600, I think was what it was called, and that's what it was. And now they are a part of a whole network, Pod Save America network, where they have a bunch of different podcasts on there. I think they have like Pod Save the World. Pod Save the People, that sort of thing. I really like Pod Save America, their main show, in which they just cover, the recent stuff in politics. I think they go on like twice a week, and they are, part of I think they used to run with the Obama administration. I think one of them used to be a speechwriter, or one of them I think that was Jon Favreau was the speechwriter, and then Tommy Vitor there.
Wait, Jon Favreau, the director and actor?
No, different Jon Favreau.
Okay. How many Jon Favreaus are there out there?
I always think that every time they introduce him too, I'm like, the director of Iron Man? But no.
The guy who did Elf?
No, and also John Lovett, who is also a speechwriter. And
wait, John Lovett, like John Lovett's from Saturday Night Live?
I'm not. I don't think it's like, but yeah, he does also his own show, which I think is super hilarious, called Love It or Leave It, which is great. I absolutely love it, and I think that it helps there too, because everyone does political commentary now, like Colbert, Last Week Tonight, and
yeah, it's starting to get a little oversaturated.
Well, these guys actually go into it and go into like, hey, if this is what's the because they know what the actual bills that are up for in legislation are, and so they'll break it down like, here's exactly what it actually means through all the jargon, and they'll break it down and explain what exactly is the fallout of certain things that are happening and what it'll affect. Like, I think they did a big piece on when the Muslim ban went out. And they were like, here's what it means for us domestically, and then here's what it means for us internationally. Here's what it makes us look like to the rest of the world, sort of thing. And it's very in-depth because they were in the White House, so they kind of know how it works. So they give a perspective that is, a lot easier to understand. Like, it's fun to laugh at and stuff too, with just some of the more ridiculous things that happen. But it is important to remember, like they have the experience to know, like, no, this is actually a problem, and here's what you can do. Like, I always like what they say, here's what you can go and do something about it, which they have like websites and stuff that you can go to like donate money or time, or here's a special election that is in your area or whatever, if you want to make progress on this or that issue. So yeah, I just feel like that was a pretty good one. Of course, you're going to have to be, if you're a more conservative listener, I don't think it's going to be your cup of tea. But, I don't know, maybe for a different, fresh perspective as well.
Yeah, it sounds like I won't be listening to it, so.
Yeah, it is, I don't know. I feel like anyone who wants to, even listen to another side, you might want to listen to something, because they are, especially Lovett, he is super snarky, which is kind of his charm, question mark, which is, I don't know. I love that guy. But are there any other podcasts that, you listen to?
There's one last one that I listen to regularly. I listen to a lot of like YouTube channel stuff also, but, for just strictly podcasts, one I am off and on with is Hardcore History. The history podcast I forget the guy's name who produces it. Like, he only updates every once in a blue moon, but whenever he puts out an episode, it is in-depth, deep, thought-provoking stuff about any historical subject, like medieval history. There's a whole thing that was one of my favorite bits, all about World War I, like from beginning to end. That was super intricate and super interesting. I keep saying interesting and good a lot, but that's what it is. It's hardcore history. It's a really great history lesson that gets you really into the details about stuff that you maybe didn't hear in school, in a way that's informative but entertaining at the same time too. It's just really, really good stuff. And the most recent episodes they put out, again, it was back in like, I don't even remember when. It was last August. They started talking about stuff with the Celtics back in Julius Caesar's time. So really, really cool stuff.
Sure. I don't know. It sounds like you're trying to trick me into learning. I'm not.
I know. Believe it or not, movies, podcasts, TV shows, they can teach you stuff if you listen and don't just only watch the stuff that's superhero TV shows.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Gotham is a fun show, but it won't teach you much about world history.
It will teach you about how to not commit crime, I think.
It'll teach you the importance of favors.
So yeah, I have one more that I wanted to really get to, which was how did this get made? Which
that's a fun one.
Wow, that one's really fun. And it's here. I'm trying to find their names right now, but it's by one of the guys from Community is one of the guys from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place, and this Jason Mantzoukas, that's his name. Man, that guy is really funny. He's really hilarious. And yeah, I think the main host is Paul Scheer, I think, and they're both comedians and actors, and I think even Paul's wife comes in for a lot of the podcasts as well, June, and she, I like that she basically has like movie amnesia to where they have to record the podcast almost right after she sees it, otherwise she'll forget about most of the movie. So that's always really fun where they make fun of her for that. Like she has like movie style like Memento syndrome or something. Yeah, so they just go through bad movies and kind of like, they have special guests on, they do live shows and stuff like that. I just listened to their one on the Garbage Pail Kids, who actually had a special guest, John Lovett from Pod Save America, so that was especially funny to me. They did Gods of Egypt, which was
oh gosh,
oh yeah, and they've done lot of stuff like like they have, I think, Surf Ninjas, Faye the Furious, and I'm just looking at some of their top ones here. The Disaster, like the Room, of course, but yeah, so they just kind of break down like bad movies and go like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? How, like, and it's funny to see them flabbergasted by stuff like Gods of Egypt, where it's like, wait, what? They bleed gold? But why? And just like,
because visuals, I don't know.
So it's got, and they were really disturbed by the Garbage Pail Kids. Like it shook them to their core. Like
they're freaky looking, man.
They're scary.
Ugly.
I'll tell you what, the Garbage Pail Kids, they are frightening, and just gross. But yeah, it's just, that one is pretty much, just more people talking about movies, but man, they are really funny. You can tell that their comedy background and their improv background really help them out with the podcast. Which I also think is helpful for anyone who wants to run a podcast. You might want to take an improv class or two just to help you learn how to, like, talk or roll and be a little more engaging while, talking to somebody else and or an audience. Like their live shows are probably their best work because they have the energy from the crowd really, puts them on their toes, I think. See, other couple honorable mentions we'll just run through real quick. I'm listening to the Unspoiled Network right now with some of their shows where they spoil like not only TV shows but books, sometimes movies and stuff like that. I really like their episodes on Justified, which I'm going through right now. They did a couple on the Marvel shows like Daredevil, Luke Cage. They're doing like Stranger Things right now. I think Stranger Things 2. Let's see what else. There was I Was There Too, which is a fun podcast, an interview podcast, with Matt Gorley, and he interviews with people that you might not remember from certain movies. Like he'll interview, like he did one with the Guardians of the Galaxy where he interviewed one of the Reavers, or one of the, what are they called? The Ravagers. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was thinking Reavers and Firefly.
Yeah, that's right. It's the other trench coat wearing like weird guys.
The ones who aren't psychotic mutants.
Right, they don't eat people. But he interviewed the one guy that gets killed in one of the scenes by Yondu with goggles. And he just like, and they go through like what the set was like and how it was working on it there, where, with people you would never even recognize, like if you met them in real life, you would never even realize they were in that movie, which I think is a very interesting, perspective. Like they did one with Janet Varney for Catwoman, like if you remember that. And I'm like, wait, Janet Varney wasn't in Catwoman, and no, she technically is not, because her scene got cut. And it was a really small scene where she was a woman at the party that Halle Berry, crashes in the beginning part of the movie, I think.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear her talk about like what that scene, like this scene that no one has seen, like it's on some cutting room floor somewhere.
And probably for the better too. So
I mean, sure, like I mean, I feel like Janet dodged a bullet or something. She gets to collect like she was even joking like, yeah, I got to collect a what was it called, a check, a derivatives check or something, you know, residual check from Catwoman just the other day. Man, a whole number $13 in my bank account. Yeah, rolling in it. Rolling in it.
hey, that'll pay for lunch, you know?
So yeah, if you're interested in hearing what movie production stuff is like from a very unlikely, you know, a less heard perspective from some of those, you know, smaller actors that was there, I would highly recommend that podcast. It's really fun.
What's it called again?
It's called I Was There Too. Yeah. So, and two is TOO.
Okay,
like it's not cute like with two or anything. It's, you know, I was there too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I really want to listen to that now.
No,
so.
it's very interesting. I would at least give it a try. At least try that Guardians of the Galaxy one. That one was like probably one of my favorites of there. It was really interesting how like the guy even got to meet Kurt Russell for a minute. Like it was just like he just got to run into him as he was leaving the set for 1 second, and it was just like, oh my god, that was amazing. I loved it.
Oh yeah, no, I've had those moments too, meeting those celebrities. You're just like, oh my gosh, I met this guy. He looked at my way, you know, kind of thing.
Well, I think he even I think he almost knocked into him in like a hall or something, and then Kevin or Kurt goes to him and it's like, whoa, big fella, because the guy was of a bigger persuasion, and he was like, oh, hey there, big guy, and it's like, don't knock me over or something, and then he just kind of walked away, and it was like, oh my god.
I actually know a story too. One of my family members, just a funny aside to that, they were skiing on a trip many years ago, and they went over this like big jump, and they collided into somebody, and they didn't think much of it first until they turned around and they saw who they collided into. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Nice.
And Arnold was pissed.
Damn.
So, my family member just ran away, just like, get that mother effer. You know, thing.
Man, I feel like if you were to
really
run into
funny.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, you would know it very soon.
Yeah. Well, you know, because everyone on the track looks the same when you're in a bunch of bundled up ski gear, but then you turned around and saw the face. It's like, holy shoot, I knocked over Arnold Schwarzenegger. I better get out of here.
You think I cannot catch you on snow?
So, did Arnold Schwarzenegger ever do a snow thriller movie, like or action film?
No, I'm thinking of Christmas stuff right now, and all I can think of is Jingle All the Way, and I'm not getting away from it.
Yeah, me too. I know Stallone did Cliffhanger, which is kind of snowy, but
Stallone did that. Like, so, no, now I'm thinking of True Lies. I don't know if he ever did a snow thing. Now I think about
darn it, I wanted to associate a movie with it.
I mean,
but yeah,
you'd
so
almost
it's like
think he
the deleted
had
scene
to.
from this movie.
Like, with all those shitty movies he made in
yeah.
the 80s, like, you'd almost have to assume that there's gotta be one where he's skiing in it. I don't know, I'll do further research. But while I do that further research, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, Justin, for talking some podcasts with me.
Yeah, you know, just get a chance to geek out about various little things that, you know, it's funny because I listen to podcasts every week and I'm on podcasts every week, but I don't really talk about the ones I listen to. So it's a fun opportunity.
I'll tell you what, before we wrap up, is there any podcasting things that, for those who want to start up podcasting, is there anything that annoys you when you're listening to a podcast? Or like some do's and don'ts?
Don't be boring.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real rust of it. I mean, I do a panel on podcasting 101, and one of the things I always talk about are some do's and don'ts. And one of the things I always talk about is like, okay, well, yeah, if the better equipment you can have is always better. You know, the audio quality. Mm-hmm. Sometimes content is good enough. It'll get over the quality issues, but not a lot.
Yeah.
You know, standard stuff like that. There's some things that I feel like don't need to be said, but you somehow need to be said anyway, because I've heard these on podcasts before. One, don't eat during a podcast. I hate that. I hate that so much.
If you do it covertly so no one can hear you, like I just did.
Yeah, and it's I would say like no one's as covert as they think they are either. I was listening to one where a woman was eating like fucking cereal, and it was ungodly annoying.
Yeah, Yeah, no, if you eat, if you think you can try to hide it, don't put your mouth anywhere near the microphone. Step away from the microphone if you really are that hungry, you know?
Also, drink from a glass if you can. Like plastic water bottles.
Oh, yes.
Plastic
No
water bottles.
straws, no sippy cups, no nothing.
Mm-hmm. Try to keep ice limited, too.
I'll say this, too. Sorry.
Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, a couple do's and don'ts I've learned, because I don't record with anyone in person these days. Like, all my stuff is with people from other states, like Nick here.
Mm-hmm.
So, the important things I do, at least from hosting a podcast now, if you're going to record together and you're not in the immediate proximity, always slate. Like, always make sure you can mark on your timeline where everyone starts talking. Like, either you all have like a test, or you guys do like a sound that can be heard across the internet kind of thing, like a foam clap kind of thing. Just make sure you know where to sync your sound, because if you go off sync, or you don't remember where you guys all started, it could be a nightmare to try and like piece together all the audio together.
Sure.
And with that too, make sure everyone's on the same point on recording on similar software, because I've had more than one occasion where everyone's recording on a software except for one person, and they're either recording at a different speed, or, in one weird case, someone recorded every bit of audio from everybody else. So I had to go in and manually edit out all the other dialogue in his audio track, because there was no other clean way to get only his voice on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make sure you're all on the same page when you're doing something before you start. You know, don't just assume.
I would say that if you're first starting off, you should start off with podcasting in person. I mean, I realize how hard that is now with just how much we do things, but it's a lot of work to do the Skype call thing. I know, like, I shouldn't say that since that's basically all we do now, but it is hard it just makes your job harder when you have to worry about the audio being synced completely throughout the whole entire thing.
Yeah, and also it's easier to pick up on the cues of conversation if you're in person. Because, you know, obviously we stumble a lot, we interrupt a lot on these podcasts, and that's just part of, you know, not being able to see each other to know when to jump in or not. So I would also recommend doing it in person, so that way you can learn how to make an organic conversation flow, so you can actually see the ticks, the pauses, the way your co-hosts speak, and that'll make things a lot easier.
Right. So yeah, that's another thing with Skype call too, is how, like, I always like to try and get someone to record on their end as much as possible, even if they only have primitive equipment or whatnot, because the recording through Skype, like, yeah, it works and everything, but like, it's that Skype robot sound that you kind of hear from someone else's voice or whatever. I mean, it depends on your connection and everything as well too, but man, it does sound kind of annoying anytime we have to do it.
Yeah, like especially
that.
if you hear like Patience speaking into a tin can during some of the recordings I've heard her on. But
yeah, but it's basically the sacrifice we have to make when we record with such lovely people such as Patience. Don't hurt us, Patience.
I don't know, Patience is lovely and I love her to bits, but yeah, that was a little rough having to go like, ooh, Patience, maybe we need to upgrade your microphone or your software or something.
Listen to Doom Patrol, guys. I think he's talking about podcasts.
Doom Patrol, she's fine. Yeah, no, Doom Patrol, she's using Chris's mic, so that's all good.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, also, like, there's like cracking knuckles or like just, you know, random stuff that you might do during a podcast. Try and be as still as possible, like in keeping background noise and stuff limited.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like I don't have to say this either, but don't watch or play something while you're recording a podcast. I couldn't believe this one person was, I could hear them in the background, and I knew that this person was not paying attention to the podcast because they were just going like, yeah, and whatever. And I could hear in the background, I suddenly started to hear Mario Kart in the background, and I realized that they were playing a video game while recording. And so with stuff like that, like, you know, with eating or doing something else while you're recording, it displays a disrespect to the audience. Like, I don't really care about recording this, so like, why should you? I'm like, okay, cool, but why should I care about listening then if you don't even care about like what you're saying? So like, yeah, there's just like a level of like professionalism that you want to portray when you're starting out, you know, when you're doing your podcast thing. But with that, as long as our, you know, pet peeves and stuff are done, I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you again, Justin, for talking some podcast stuff with me. Absolute great time.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to help, man.
Mm-hmm. And thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you have a couple more ideas if you want to, stretch out your podcast library a little bit. Hopefully we can...
if it's okay to promote something here.
Go for it.
I mentioned, all the time I record on oneofus.net for Breakfast Pub and that stuff. And then, Eye on the Prize, we're still scheduling our new recording, but the Oscar nominations come out next week, for all you people who care that are interested. So we'll have a special big recording where we're trying to get everyone who's been on the podcast so far to be on it. So that's going to be myself, Ian Butcher, Shaquille Lambert, and JC DeLeon. It's going to be a feat to get it all work because freaking JC works all the time. Bless him. He's got a job. So, but yeah, so we're going to have that. So there's going to be a extra special episode coming out this next Monday.
Cool. Well, if you are into the award season and all that sort of stuff, that is where I would go for my nerdy Oscar talk. If I were to personally go for that sort of thing, if I didn't think award shows were bullshit, but that's fine. It's absolutely okay.
We do it because we love movies. We don't love award shows. We love movies that get recognized at award shows.
Mm-hmm. You know what? That's a good way to look at it. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening again. If you want to, get in touch with us, maybe turn me on to a couple podcasts. Like, what are some podcasts I should be listening to? Let me know. Email us at unapologeticgeekout@gmail.com. Maybe give us a Facebook message at unapologeticgeekout on Facebook, or, tweet us at UGO podcast. We would love to know what you guys are listening to, and, who else should I learn from? Some podcast greats. If you want to help out our podcast, though, you can also always do that by subscribing to us on iTunes or giving us one of those 5-star reviews on iTunes. They really help us out with visibility, and plus we love to read them on the air when they're 5 stars because we read them word for word, and you guys write some funny, silly stuff all the time. So we really love that. Miss doing that. So maybe give that a try. Also keep an eye out this coming spring. We're getting back ready for convention season. It's going to be happening, right around March. I think it'll be our first one. We'll be hitting up PlatCon again. And yeah, it's going to be a real good time this year. I'm very excited for our convention stuff. I have a lot of new ideas, a lot of new stuff to try, and I'm just excited. But with that, I think we can wrap it up right here. We are Unapologetic Geek Out, and we're out.